to the masses. And I'm really excited to have one of my favorite people on the planet with us today. To give a little recap of last week, we had Jeff Condon on with us. He's an estate planning attorney. He's also an author of a book, Beyond the Grave. If you have not had a chance to see the interview, you can always go on to The Way to Wow on YouTube and you can check it out. It's really full of valuable information. I think we lost Dina.
Uh-oh.
She's going to have to come back on. Let me quickly text her to hop back in. Give me a quick second here.
We're going to do the time step.
Oh, there she is. I didn't even have to reach out. Okay. Welcome back, Dina. I want to take a minute to introduce Dina properly. Dina is someone that came into my life close to 9 years ago. And ever since we met, she has been an inspiration, a leader, a mentor, a coach on every level, primarily business, but also personal. She's someone I admire and respect. She's very successful, has a practice in the financial industry for close to 20 years, which covers almost every state in the United States from coast to coast, hundreds of thousands, I think, of licensed agents helping families every single day. And Dina's story is really powerful. I'll let her share mostly. Today, you're going to get to be part of a very fun, intimate conversation, really to help women understand women in leadership, women empowerment. It's actually International Women's Month. And it's just such a great time that I think that I was able to get you on the show. So thank you, Dina Michael, all the way from Calabasas, California. And I'm going to start just by saying, share with us a little bit. You've been in this industry for many years. And in your experience, you've met a lot of families, individuals, business owners who are trying to get ahead financially. And I'm sure you've come across families who are more prepared than others. But what are some of the main, I would say, mistakes that you see that people are making that really could be tweaked pretty easily?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Leah, I always love having a conversation with you. We can talk for so long about so many topics, but yes, this is a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts. And you're actually a great example of somebody that's just going after her dreams, doing exactly what you're supposed to do, living within your gifts. And I'm just so proud of you for making that happen. I love the fact that we're going to start out with our mistakes and what are some of the mistakes that I see every day. Let's just get that out of the way. And then we can dive into just some of the solutions, go forward in the right direction here. But I guess, if I can sum up some of the mistakes that I see on a regular basis, and we see some of the main ones over and over. I think number one, it's really an obvious thing, but unfortunately, we're not making as much progress as we should be making. And that's in the space of financial education and financial literacy. I think it all starts with first knowing what we should be knowing. And it really still shocks me to this day to think about how, this is the United States of America, and we have 21 states out of 50 states that actually require a high school financial education. Financial literacy is affecting, 5 billion people on our planet. It's the #1 economic problem of all time. And we meet people every single day that don't know how to read their statements. And a lot of them are educated. They don't know what their fees are, and they don't even know what they're invested in, or they don't know how to put their money to work for them. And it's we're seeing hardworking, good people that want more for their future. And I think that, yes, it all starts first with that financial education. Beyond that, I say this all the time, the biggest nation in the world is the nation of procrastination. We tend to live in the now, and there are a lot of people that want to buy things and, we want, but I think evaluating really what we need first more than what we want is huge. So I feel starting with the mistakes would be not knowing where you're going, not looking at where you're at, not having the important conversations. And I think to take that to the next level, it's actually knowing your numbers. You would be surprised. I meet people every day who say that they don't even know what their monthly bills are, Like they don't know what they're spending money on consistently, whether it's like their fixed expenses or things that they don't know. So it all is connected to that theme of financial education. I mean, if we could tap everybody with that magic wand and just solve that problem first and make a big push towards that for the next generation or for women or couples. And I mean, there's so many people in all different walks of life that are struggling in their own way. But talking about it, spreading awareness around it, that would be the first step towards avoiding the big mistakes of making the wrong decisions, you know?
Absolutely. And I love that you talk about procrastination. I mean, that was one of my biggest mistakes. And, you know, when I met you, I was 39 and I had nothing saved, a ton of credit card debt. I was completely backwards. And it was because of the lack of role models around money, conversations around money. Speaking of which, I ended up in this industry and learning about this kind of stuff because I hit rock bottom and I needed to learn. How did you end up here? Tell us a little bit about your story, your journey to, you know, working in this industry. I think the audience would love to get to know you on a personal level, Dina.
Yeah, thank you, Leah. I mean, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I'm the second to oldest of 9 children. And I saw my father working really hard. He's been a school teacher for years and years, and he's somebody who loves what he does and he loves education. And I was in college when I attended a workshop. I always knew that I wanted to be, you know, a maker, not a taker. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. I mean, that was something that, you know, I've always strived to accomplish. And so here I was invited to this money event. And I showed up not knowing what to expect, but I can tell you that sitting there and just learning for the first time, things that you would think that we learn in high school, but we don't. You know, I remember learning complicating things in school, right? Like earth science and calculus and trigonometry. But like ultimately, like what about how to buy a house or how to balance your checkbook? And so these concepts were being taught. And I realized that, you know, once you see these things, it's very hard to unsee it. And I made some decisions in that moment that I was going to talk to somebody and that I was going to put a plan in place so that I can reach some of my goals. And that really started me on a journey. You know, I never thought that I would be in this field and that I would love it so much. And I would be just so thankful to be doing something so valuable on a daily basis. But I think that everything in life, it starts with first trying and dating and then eventually organically, whether it's meant to be or you fall in love. It really pulled me. And I'm very grateful for that. But it all started just through like that first step of education, awareness, and having a conversation around where you could be if you set things in motion, you know?
Wow. What were one of the first most important rules that I know you live by now and you teach and you share, but if you had to give one very important rule around money, what would that be?
Okay, 1. Well, my favorite concept to teach is such a simple concept that gets overlooked. And like I was saying earlier, you know, you could be working really hard and have a PhD and have never heard of Albert Einstein's rule of 72. Such a simple concept. And I didn't even know it then when I first learned the rule. But when I was a kid, I was about 6 or 7 years old. It was really my grandmother, may she rest in peace. And she's the one that emulated that to me. She was my role model who was putting that in motion for me from when I was just a little girl. And the rule of 72, Albert Einstein says that this is the 8th wonder of the world. It's the 8th wonder in all of creation. And it's the laws around compound interest. And he basically teaches that if you take the interest rate that your money is earning today, you divide it into the number 72, it will tell you in how many years it will take for your money to double. So I learned this concept. And everybody wants their money to double. Everybody wants to feel like they're going in the right direction. But what we're not paying attention to is what kind of plans do we have? What kind of accounts are set up? And how fast is that growing? And once I started really paying attention to that, where if my money's growing in an account, let's just assume it's sitting at some bank earning 1%, 1 into 72 is 72 years. And I started realizing that it would take me 72 years for my account value, if I haven't spent it by then, to double. And then of course, we're hearing all about inflation and what would that even be worth in 72 years? And so I started to really pay attention to what's out there, what exists, and how can I put my money to work for me? And I started to really recognize that my grandmother really held my hand more than I even realized. So when I was that little girl, I remember her saying to me that she was going to open up some accounts for me. And she said to me something along the lines of, I should send her my money. Anytime I would have money, come across money, whether it was a birthday, a holiday, my bat mitzvah. And I was always like the community babysitter. I was a camp counselor. I was always hustling. I was always trying to, save as much as I could. She said, I want you to ask your mom for a stamp, and I want you to go to the mailbox, and I want you to mail me your money. And there were days, I remember, Leah, like it was snowing and sleeting and raining or whatever it was.
And it didn't get stolen? Amazing.
I'd be walking with my envelope to the mailbox, and I would be sending her money. And I had no idea what she was doing or how much she was saving for me and putting away. And she really got me going by saying that she was going to contribute to it too. So if I sent her money, she was going to put money in it as well. And that kind of like really made me realize that we were a team in this.
Wow.
And by the time I want to say around 17, I had no idea how much I had saved. And I sat down with her, and I remember we took out a calculator and a pencil and some white pieces of paper, and we started adding it all up. And I had at that point over $67,000 saved.
Wow. Wow.
And this is like just a real testament that these concepts, the compound interest, the learning about how to put money to work for you, like there's a roadmap out there, and this works, but really helping people to understand that this is doable. Yes, it takes discipline. It requires you making a decision, and it does require some mentorship, because how else would I have learned this? It wasn't like I was extra smart or talented or anything like that. I was just fortunate and blessed enough to have a mentor and somebody who cared.
Yes.
And somebody who taught me the value of a dollar. So yeah, my favorite rule for sure has got to be the rule of 72. And I see how it impacts lives for generations, and how young people can make smart decisions now that are not that big of a deal. $50, $100, put it away in the right place, just automate it, and what that could do for them when they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s. And we see the tears every day, the regret sometimes of people that have either put that off or nobody's ever taught this to them. So definitely by far my favorite rule is the rule of 72.
Wow,
Sure.
and that's an incredible story. It makes, when I heard that story for the first time, and then I became a grandmother, the first thing I thought about was your story, Dina. And what can I do for my grandson so that one day he's sharing a story that I helped him understand money. And when he was born, I was already in this industry, and I was able to open up some custodial accounts for him and make sure that he when he has a birthday present, not just throw cash, right? Put something in an investment. And so thank you for sharing that with all of us. We can all learn from that. And you mentioned people taking action. What would that look like if someone wants to take immediate action? Give us a few without getting into any details or getting in the weeds of it all. But what could someone do if they want to take immediate action and they don't have maybe a lot of money?
Well, I think somebody said this to me years back. It made so much sense to me. And it was one of those little things, those simple things that went on to change my life. They said, find somebody that's where you want to be in 10 years. Find somebody that's where you want to be in 20 years. And then sit with them and have a heart-to-heart conversation. Ask them for help. Ask them for advice. Be open, be vulnerable, be transparent. Tell them where you're trying to get to. And also ask yourself, like, the people out there that are guiding you, if you wouldn't want, whether it's that marriage or that financial situation, be careful who you take advice from. Really find out where people are at, and then from there, you're able to make smart decisions about who to copy and paste. It's not like you need to reinvent the wheel, but really have meaningful conversations and leadership from people who have already walked the walk. I think that's number one. And then I mentioned earlier, like the power of automating something. Sometimes it could take an hour or two to just set up the right buckets, and you get it on autopilot. And it just like we pay Visa and MasterCard, and people go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's, and it's just like this auto thing that you're doing consistently. You can set things up where it's just starting small, and just like anything else, like working out, you're able to push yourself and increase it and add to that as time goes by, you're building muscle, you're building better habits through following these mentors at the same time. So I feel like you
Powerful.
combine that and you're already on the yellow brick road to the Wizard of Oz. You know what I mean?
Love it. Okay, Dorothy, let's do this. I'll tell you, I remember learning these concepts, and when you just said building those muscles, I had to wrap my head around that, because at the time it seemed impossible to save. But I remember you shared with me something so powerful that I'd love to share with the audience, which is, even if it's $10, but if it's consistent and it's automatic. So what do I mean by that? You know, at the time I had a steady paycheck working as a school librarian, and I would get, you know, my on the 10th and on the 25th, the same amount every month. It was never enough. Never enough. However, what I realized was, if I don't pay myself first, right? If I don't make Leah the priority, it's not going to happen. And I remember setting up, like you said, take that time. And what I did was I turned on a draft. It's an automatic draft every paycheck day, $10 from each time, twice a month. So it means I was saving $20 a month. But it wasn't up to me. It was going to be paid just like my phone bill, and even before my rent and my car payment. But what did that teach me? That saving $20 is doable. And then what do you think happened? Now I can save $40. And then you get used to that. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. I have my awesome husband, Rabbi Siegel, here with us, and he could tell you all about weightlifting. And that's really what it is. You build that muscle and it becomes so doable and so simple. But it starts with, like you said, a decision to realize you have to start now, or you're just losing out on the compounding interest. And what's going on today with inflation rates so tremendous, it's very scary. If our purchasing power just gets smaller, diminishes, and then saving in the bank, what are we going to be able to afford, right? I saw a funny thing today. One of my brother-in-law sent me, it was like a Gucci bag, but it was shaped in the form of a gas tank. Like, that's how expensive gas is today. It was so not funny. But anyway, you know, I hear people say, but I feel so behind, right? I feel so behind. I really didn't start. Am I hopeless? Like, is there really something that I can do? And what do you tell people, Dina, when they tell you I feel behind? And tell me some good advice that you can share with someone.
Wow. Well, I do hear that a lot. I think number one, especially if somebody's behind, well, then you really definitely don't have any more time to waste. So there's even a bigger sense of urgency. You know, people who say that, sometimes it's their language of going towards the door of saying, I can't handle this, I can't cope. But if anything, it's even more critical that we have these important conversations and we take some action steps, especially if you're behind. So just realize, I think even if we were to start small, setting doable goals, really visualizing what you want. And instead of having a big goal, like there are times that I'll say to people, $1 million, you know, just $1 million. Let's think about that. For some people, they think that that's huge and impossible and far away. For some people, they think I'm never going to be able to survive on that. And so I think setting a doable goal for you and then doing the numbers, knowing your numbers of what it's going to take to get to that goal, and starting to really visualize what your life would be like and getting educated about the steps that you need to take. But I think ultimately, especially if you feel like you're behind, it's really important to be resourceful. Really make a list of all of your gifts, your talents, ways that you can generate money. Really know your numbers and look at ways that you could cut down on things that are not important or things that you can waste. Like, I meet families all the time that, let's just say, for example, like, you know, they don't have life insurance, but they do have like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime, and then they're going to the movies. And it's like, there are things that are happening in their budget that are just overlapping, and there are simple remedies to that. You can just cut out and, you know, really print out your statements and get clear on the simple tweaks that you can make in your life. That it doesn't mean that you need to like change your entire lifestyle and jump into the deep end, just like dieting. You know what I mean? That never works for the long haul, but really evaluate doable steps that you can take to move towards the goal. And beyond that, making simple tweaks that don't feel so threatening and so life-changing to your lifestyle, but just starting somewhere. you
I
know?
love that comparison to diet, Dina. It's so true. Imagine most people quit their diet within a few days or a few weeks because they took on too much too fast. And I love how you're going to help someone like bite-sized, chewable amounts that they could make possible and make happen. And speaking of mindset around money and how you mentioned that $1 million could seem like so much to someone, impossible, or to someone else, are you serious? That's not enough, right?
Right.
And we all come from different backgrounds and we all are told very different stories or truths, okay, let's call them our so-called truths from when we were young. And sometimes this goes back multiple generations. Right. I mean, I have stories to share about conversations I've had with my mom, about conversations she had with her mom, which really set in motion so much wiring and conditioning around finance. So what I'd like to have you share with us is, what are some of the things that we can do to help our mindset around money be healthier and help us in the long run? Because so many of us tell ourselves these stories that are not true, that are hurting us, but we don't even realize it because it's so a habit. Thoughts are habits, correct? And so what are some of the tips that you help people on the mindset part around money?
Leah, this is a big one for sure. They say that we earn our worth, meaning like what we believe our worth is, what our expectations are. To me, just like English is a language and Spanish is a language, our relationship with money and success and confidence, this is a language that can be that skill that we learn. And we see it every day. People are programmed. We are all programmed. And I want you to think about like who in your life has programmed you to have certain belief systems around money. I think about my mother, I think about my father, I think about grandmother, like I think about the people in my life, whether it was a teacher, like what did I learn from them? How do I see myself in how they were? And it's really important. I think step number one is just that awareness. And then also making a decision that you can choose to be you. You can choose your path and you can choose your money blueprint and you can change. This is all boiling down to like the difference between the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And if somebody believes that they have the ability to build something, to build their life, to build change, to build growth, to improve things, if you're given gifts that you can now take into the world and you could create, like if you believe that and you can get to work around that, anything is possible. Wow. And so starting out with just really recognizing that you can write your story, that was very big for me. Working on my programming, how did I do it? Wow, I think probably the best thing to do is feed your mind, TFA, thoughts, feelings, and then actions. It all starts with what we're thinking about. And so books, like I pay attention to what I'm feeding my brain, what kind of books I'm reading. There are certain books that changed my world. I read those books and I was like, okay, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm empowered. It was like I was able to make certain decisions that went on to change my life. It wasn't like the book changed my life. It was the decisions that I made. And so some of those books were like, number one, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He talks about the importance of having desire. If you have the desire to do something, that's the flame. Nobody else is going to light your flame. You got to first light your flame. And so I think that was pretty big in helping me to create some new realities around my mindset. And then T. Harv Eker, he wrote a book called The Millionaire Mind. Huge. And he gives you like affirmations of what you should be saying about like your belief system so that you can now kind of like make those changes and create lasting change. So reading books, I would say read books, pay attention to like what you're watching. There's so much garbage out there. Just choose to spend some time. Obviously, we all need entertainment and we all need to unwind, and that's okay. But I think, the statistics are something like an average American spends like 7 hours a day watching television. So I think what we're really feeding our brains is where it all starts, and plugging in a little bit more of the good stuff so that you can make better choices. Right?
No, totally. And I remember you in introducing me to and opening my eyes to some of this information. when I really wasn't exposed to any of this language, right? There's the money language, there's the mindset language. And one of the first books you had me read was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? By Robert Kiyosaki. And it's, it's almost 9 years since I read it. And we still refer to it almost every single day, especially his second book. He talks about cash flow quadrants, mindset behind earning income. And I remember when you sat me down and you said, I'm going to show you some of the mindsets around earning income, and you're going to tell me where you're at and where do you want to be. You know how you can't unlearn something, right? That's one of the things, like the rule of 72. Once you know it, you literally use that guiding you almost every single day. It becomes a part of how you think about the world, how you see the world. And so I want to pivot over into the other part of our conversation today. We learned some really valuable tips on money and not procrastinating, taking immediate action, even if it's small, finding someone you trust, so finding someone who's where you want to be, right, 10 years from now, and asking them how they did it, getting that coach. And thinking about women, leadership, entrepreneurial mindset. I want to pivot over into how did you make that switch? Because when you first were in this industry, I think you were more maybe making commissions and sales and more of the employee type of mindset. And then we're getting introduced to this whole idea of becoming a business owner. What is really the difference? And how did you decide that that's what you want to do? And how did you take that first leap?
Two things. Wow, that's a powerful question, because so many people right now are kind of evaluating their careers. There are a lot of people leaving the workforce. I'm sure you're kind of seeing what's going on for people, moms. COVID changed everything. People are looking for extra income as well. So careers is a big subject. And I think number one, really watching what people in different careers were going through, be it financially, be it lifestyle, or their schedule. I started really thinking about where I wanted to be. And again, this all kind of connects with what we were talking about earlier. Really pay attention, not just to what you think you're passionate about, but what you think your purpose might be in, what you think you could monetize, what kind of connects everything. And so I started really watching and looking around at, let's say, corporate America. I've had some jobs. I was always working, and I started to kind of recognize that there was more. I wanted more. And sure enough, somebody gave me a book, and it was that book, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And this is where, through learning Robert Kiyosaki's concepts, where he talks about you're either an employee or you're self-employed, or you can kind of cross over to the business owner and the investor quadrants. That's when I started thinking about, okay, what if I could build something bigger than me? Okay, what if I can make a bigger difference, even when it's not me physically showing up 9 to 5?
Wow.
Ooh, well, what if I didn't have a boss? What if I was the boss? I started thinking bigger. What are some industries that I can start building passive income, residual income? I started to really open my mind to what's possible, what exists. And I started to pay attention to where people were at 10 years, 20 years, 30 years into a career. So I think really getting clear, that's, I think, what's holding a lot of people back, and they feel like they're spinning sometimes. It's really getting clear on where you want to be, and then what path, what industries, what financial tools exist, talking to people, really taking the time to invest in your future so that you can make good decisions. And so I really I fell a lot on my face, and I spoke with tons of people, and I did try different things. But I think once I understood the power of money in business and learning that, I was able to build my confidence. And this is why I'm very passionate about teaching people, but women, girls, the next generation, this language around money and business, because money is not enough. It's also learning how to have options career-wise, where if you do have a baby or if you do need to take time off, you're not reliant on somebody else giving you a paycheck every 2 weeks. And really, there are a lot of people wanting that. They just need some more information about how to get it done. So again, reading, it all boils down back to that reading, and getting bigger ideas going.
Right. Wow. Now, speaking of women in leadership positions and women in business in general, what's your take on women in this very fast-paced world where we're expected to be still doing all the roles, right, that maybe a stay-at-home mom would do. So tell us a little bit, how do you get it all done?
That's a hot topic for me because you know it. I mean, first of all, I come from a big family of girls. I'm one of 7 girls, so I have 6 sisters. So money issues / like women's issues has always been at the forefront of my life and experience. And so when I think about like the past, you go back to, let's say, the 1960s, you know, women needed permission to open up a bank account. So we've come obviously a very long way.
I don't think enough people know that, Dina. I'm sorry for interrupting. We all know women were not always able to vote. We all know that women, you know, we're still trying to get a woman to be president one day. Repeat what you just said, because I think that's something we really need to remember and look how far we've come. We couldn't open a bank account without our husband's permission.
Oh yeah. I mean, it gets me excited thinking about how far we've come, but at the same time, there's a lot of hope and anticipation about the future, because the truth is I don't think we're where we should be. There's a lot of room for growth. But yeah, to think that we need permission to make big financial decisions, sure, we've come a long way. However, doing what I do and having money conversations every single day with so many people from all different walks of life, I can tell you, I still hear often women say to me, oh, well, my husband takes care of that, or my father handles that. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, in a relationship, there are people that are really good at this and really good at that, and one person does the cooking. But I think really challenging people to think ahead, because anything is possible. If we've learned anything in COVID, anything is possible. Health, marriage, life, death, anything can happen tomorrow or in the blink of an eye. And then what are you going to do? Do you even know the passwords? Do you even know where the money's at? Like, where's the checkbook, right? That kind of stuff. And so I think really realizing that even though we've made a lot of progress, listen, women are still making 82 cents on the dollar in comparison to what men are earning out there in the corporate world. Now, yes, women take off more time. We have different challenges. We're taking care of our loved ones, and we're taking care of our kids and having babies. And obviously, you know, it's a very different lifestyle for a lot of women, but ultimately, like for moms are earning even less than that amount. Mothers, hardworking mothers who are juggling so much. So yeah, it's a super hot topic for me, but especially in business. It's like I look at just the financial industry as a whole, and there are over like 100 public companies in the financial space, and there's probably like only 5 or 6 female CEOs. And I know Harvard did a study on this, and they talked about how women have more soft leadership skills in many areas, but to know that we're still not represented enough. I think about my girls. I have 2 girls and 2 boys, and I want my kids to know that anything is possible for their daughters or for their wives. And, you know, and I know that all people from all walks of life feel this way in many different ways. But when I really think ahead, I am excited knowing that, you know, the ratio of businesses that are being opened by women, we've seen an increase in that. You know, $2 trillion in revenue brought in by women, female-owned businesses since the last 5 or 6 years. So we've had like a major uptick. More than 20% new business owners are, you know, women going after it. So I think people in general are starting to realize that if I want to make my goals come true, maybe if I get myself educated and get a good job, whatever that means, because some people think it's job security, but then we've seen people get laid off all the time. But to really get in the driver's seat and maybe build something on the side or work on our skills so that we have backup plans and options, or maybe we get into business or do something like a side hustle. I think people are starting to really realize that to make their dreams come true, they need to be doing that, you know, and they want more information on how to do it.
Wow. And speaking of side hustle, in the line of work that Dina and I are in, I did start off because I just needed to cover rent. I mean, I literally had a shortage and I needed to just have that little thing taken care of. And fast forward, and now it's become my full-time, you know, love. My passion is really just helping people learn the basics and taking action immediately, even if it's a small, you know, little change, a little tweak in your mindset. It's so true. That little side hustle can turn into the dream of your life. Seriously. Well, you've had a lot of advice given to you over the years, right? You started off here in your early 20s. I love watching the milestones. When I met you, I think you had 1 6-month-old, and you now have 4 amazing, amazing children. And so you've had a lot of advice. What would you say in entrepreneurial, in that aspect, what was the best advice you were given?
Well,
As an
gosh,
entrepreneur.
there's been a lot of really good advice. I think if I think back to like the pivotal moments, number one, I remember learning, don't get too high on the highs or too low on the lows, because reality is typically somewhere in between. And that really helps me to remind myself that I'm building a business, I'm running a system, I'm creating something that's supposed to be separate from my emotion and my personality, meaning I can bring my passion, I can bring my personality, but if I'm personally having a challenging day, my system shouldn't be affected. And so I needed to learn self-regulation.
I think
Tough.
we all could use some of this. Tell us what's working.
Well, I think just reminding ourselves, right? Reality is somewhere in between, staying level-headed. There are always going to be challenges. So I think that's number one. I remember when I was just scared to leave my job, scared to make a leap. I remember feeling overwhelmed, and I reached out to somebody, and he said to me, Dina, everyone's afraid when they make a big change. Change is scary. Getting out of your comfort zone is scary. And he said, what you got to ask yourself is, what do you have more of? Do you have more fear or do you have more desire? Because different people are pulled and pushed based on these big emotions. And the truth is, I had a ton of fear. I probably had like 49% fear, a lot of fear. But because I had 51% desire, I had just enough to keep going and to stay focused on the goals. I was able to make the decision that was leading me with my desire. I was able to kind of listen with that voice more, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was really good advice. I think the last one that just comes to mind is I remember learning that your life is gonna look like the 5 or so people that you hang out with the most. Let's just say whether that's income, whether that's your relationship, like all of that stuff is so affected by the people that we hang out with all the time, because whether we like it or not, it's like just through osmosis. It's like the programming is happening consciously, subconsciously, it's all around us. And so really paying attention to the people that you allow to be in that inner circle over and over and over and over, those people are going to be helping to mold you. And so just really recognizing that you can choose amazing people that can help shape the next chapter based on whatever the goals are that you have. But you got to decide what those are, and then you've got to really seek out the right people and just do your part to get to know them and let that rub off on you, if that makes sense.
So good. I bet everyone's thinking about, who are the 5 people I hang around most. Now does that go for spouses too? I mean, that's who are around.
I would say that that's a big one. You know what I mean?
That's probably the biggest. Wow, that's a very powerful one. And thank you for sharing that. And, speaking of working with people and being around people, someone might be listening into this, right? We are going live right now. And someone might be someone who's a leader of a team, manager of a team, someone who's in that position of really being an influence on people. And as we know, people have different personalities, right? So give me some tips, or, even your favorite tip on how do you properly have a team of people that are so different and still be a good influencer.
Wow. I love that. That's like one of my favorite parts about going to work and working in a community. It's like, I feel like I learn so much, and I'm the sponge that's the student day in and day out, learning from a team, the team, everyone around me. So always like be in student mode. People can teach you so much. I learned so much, different foods, different cultures, different mentalities. It's really awesome. But I would say, like, how to deal with sometimes the more challenging stuff. Something that I really try to remind myself is not to listen with my ears, but to really listen with my heart, and to always trust my intuition.
Yeah.
I know we have 2 eyes, and they say that we're supposed to have that intuition. It's like sometimes we really know, but it's hard. It's hard. The right answer is hard. And so following and leading with your intuition, listening with your heart, really trying to get to the root of what motivates somebody, what they want, what they're missing. I think that helps a lot in leadership. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, but I just enjoy working with people. So I think that to work with people, you've got to care and you've got to show up and give. You know, it's like this exchange, you know what I mean? But leadership requires a personal example, but also caring. And I think listening from my heart has been what I always try to remind myself to do. Don't react, take away, not self or ego, but just really try to solve the problem. You know, what's the problem? And also challenging people to share what they think the problem is, because there are a lot of people that are going to tell you all the time in life what they don't want to do, what they're not willing to do, what they're not interested in doing, what they can't do. Like so many people come to me on a daily basis with that kind of mantra. Like that's like the whole vibe going on.
Just as long. Yeah.
Right, the dialogue. And I'm just like, okay, tell me what you can do. Tell me what you're willing to do. Tell me what you think the solutions are. Do you know what I mean? So that kind of takes it to the next level.
You know, I have this picture, like I want to make this cartoon that it's a face and instead of ears, it's two hearts. You're listening with your heart. That is so precious. And I will tell you, and the rest of the people listening to this, that is what you are. You're someone who, from day one that I met you, you believed in me before I believed in me. You helped me stretch my vision and you gave me wings to fly. I never saw myself as a leader or in a position to you know, be a mentor to other people. But as a result of your mentorship, it enabled me to mentor hundreds of people over the past 8 years. And so what you're saying, you do on a daily basis, and you're getting better and better and better. And it's so incredible to see and learn from you. So I needed to hear that today, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. Thinking about motivating people, I remember you once told me you can't really motivate people, but you got to find motivated people. But there has to be more to that. I do believe that there is a way to help motivate, and there's a secret sauce, there's a science, there's something that you're doing right. And I know that we can learn from you. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, thank you for the visualization of the ears and the hearts. Leah, ultimately, you took action. I think that that's something that we need to address. You know what I mean? You can find the right mentor, you can want all the right things, but you do need to then implement whatever the strategy is and get to work. But as far as motivating people, it's true. Some people are more motivated than others, but how do we build on that motivation?
Right.
I think building confidence comes from when we make small steps in the right direction and we make small promises and we keep those promises to ourselves. It gives us that confidence. Now, as a leader or a third party that's helping people set the goals, right? Number one, it's shocking to think about how much negativity and how much bad feedback we're getting all the time. Like, when was the last time people really genuinely just complimented you, had nice things to say to you, and then they challenged you right after that? That's, I think, the dynamic. Do you see what I mean? So number one is really seeing what that diamond in the rough can shine like, really seeing people's gifts. This is really, to me, what leadership is about. It's really finding what people's strengths are, having them identify what their strengths are, reminding them of their strengths, encouraging them and praising them and recognizing them. We call it EPR, encourage, praise, and recognize, but then also challenging them. And with small steps that they can achieve and that they could feel proud of, it builds that confidence, and then they're able for the bigger challenge. It's just like coaching. You know what I mean? The coach will say 3 push-ups and then great job. I know you could do it. I believe in you. That's leadership. Okay, 10 push-ups, next step, next level. So I feel like we can all be doing that, whether it's with our kids, whether it's with ourselves. Like, we're all leading in some capacity, but really making decisions to consciously do more of it and to do it better and to pay attention to ways that we could be doing it more effectively, or ways that we've tried doing it that it hasn't worked out very well. I've made so many mistakes in leadership. So I think constantly course correcting and realizing what works. I feel like this works the best.
I love it.
Reminding people what their gifts are and then getting them to do 10 more push-ups.
You are a personal trainer. That's pretty much what this is. That's really awesome. And I'm going to ask one more question before we open the floor for any other questions from the audience. People try a lot of things, right? They start things, they don't finish them. You know, in your opinion, why do most people fail on things that they start? They really start with a good intention, but something happens. What do you think is that link, that gap between starting something, accomplishing it? What happened in between here for most people with most things they start?
I remember one of my mentors, he would make me say over and over and over, I finish things I start.
Ooh.
I am a finisher. And it was like this programming to remind me that I'm not going to start something unless I really make a decision. And obviously, like, nobody's perfect. We're not machines and life happens, but you set out with that intention to really make stronger decisions and stronger commitments to finish and see things through. And why I'm saying this is because we're living in a microwavable society. I mean, seriously, you take your dinner, you put it in the microwave, you press 2 minutes, and then you got your dinner. Right? So people think that it's just going to show up, and success doesn't show up, and you really have to seek it, and it requires work. And I think that the bigger challenge is that there are a lot of people that visualize the beginning and the end, but they don't actually go through what it's going to take in the middle. They don't visualize enough of like what the day-to-day middle part of the survival stage of creating a business or building wealth. Do you know what I mean? Like
when they get the no,
beginning.
yeah. Well, like in other words, you picture yourself finally making the phone call, whatever it is, right? And you see yourself closing the business or closing the deal, but you didn't put into account that there might be some objections you got to learn how to handle. And does that make you or break you?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many people that are already like cashing their lottery multi-million-dollar win before they actually like put in 3 months worth of hard work. Do you know what I mean? And that's important to recognize. It's not just about the idea. There are a lot of ideas. It requires a thought out action plan, and then implementation, and then accountability. Like there are different pillars that are required to build this building. And when we really address that properly, I think it'll help with the follow through, because ultimately, like, yes, people want it now. There's kind of like a lack of patience. There's so many distractions. I mean, you can just order anything online and it shows up at your door. So this kind of culture can really hold us back if we expect that with our success, or when it comes to wealth building. Rome wasn't built in a day. Yes, it works, and there are proven systems that work, but really visualizing the middle and being disciplined enough to stay with it, to stick with it. You know, things will get tough, expecting that things get tough, expecting the rejection. I think that's all part of it as well, you know?
Wow, thank you for that. And I automatically thought about people's accounts. You know, when you're saving money and you have money in the market and it's going up and down, that's your middle. You're still going to invest, and there's the outcome, but it's part of it. It's the necessary journey in generating wealth. It doesn't happen overnight. The compound interest is not an overnight tower, but it's staying in for the long haul is what's going to get you that ultimate goal. And so I'm so grateful. I want to thank you for that. So powerful. And I want to just open the floor if anyone has any questions for Dina, whether it's on leadership, whether it's on finance. We cannot give any financial advice in particular, but broad concepts definitely are welcomed at this time. I know a lot of people are in the middle of a workday or having their lunch break, but it's so great to be tuned in. If no one has any specific questions, maybe
I can jump in for a minute. Dina, you mentioned something earlier in your talk about people finding that thing that they like to do that they can turn into a business or turn into a career. So I know in my work, I talk about something that I call your unique value proposition, your UVP. And I describe it as you take what you like to do, what you're able to do, and what somebody will pay you to do. And where you find those three things meeting, that's where you're going to find your professional, métier, to use the French word, that which you will enjoy doing, but will also pay you. Because if you have only two of them, like if you love doing it and you have the skill to do it, you've got a great hobby because no one will pay you, right? And if you can make a lot of money and you have the skill, but you don't like doing it, you have, a dead end career, right? So I thought I'd throw that out there. I'm just curious what you think about that as a concept.
I love that. I remember watching a very short clip about, and I'm sorry that his name is not coming to the forefront of my mind, but the man that is on the show called Dirty Jobs. Dirty Jobs. He does the dirtiest jobs in America. He does really well. He's really successful. I remember watching that clip, and there are a lot of people that are chasing a passion, but the passion might not be providing for them. And he talks about how he didn't go out there chasing a passion. What he did was he found something that he could be really good at, something that people need, something he can monetize. He talks exactly about that. And what he did was he brought his passion with him. And then his passion built. Do you see what I mean?
Love that.
So that's powerful. I remember, and this is all in the same theme of like, stay open, but really ask yourself the tough questions, talk to successful people, write this out and find the connectors, and it'll start to become clearer. It really will. And you've got to have faith in the process. And all of us have, definitely gone through that process of trying to find it and cultivate it. But that idea of not chasing passion and bringing passion with you helped me so much, because as long as you're open-minded, there are a lot of things that you're passionate about. You're not just passionate about one thing. You could be passionate about a lot of things. We're multiplex, complicated people that like all types of things and foods and places. And so be open-minded to trying things and just believing in yourself,
Wow. I love that. Thank you, Kevin. And that's really powerful. And that visual, like believing in yourself. And you mentioned something earlier in the conversation, to build that confidence, you're keeping a promise you made to yourself. How excited are you when you tell yourself you're going to do something and you actually do it? And you're like, I am so glad I followed through, whether it's getting up early, exercising, sticking to a plan, reading all that stuff they all build. They get stacked on. And your success is not this boom success. Your success is the stacking that happens with each promise you make to yourself, and you show up to you, and the world will follow. You might not, like you said, be the most passionate about something, but then when others start to recognize what you've done for them, suddenly you fall in love with it and the process. So I'm so grateful. And I know I learned so much today from you, Dina. You're so inspirational, and you are going to be such a source of knowledge for so many people. This video will hopefully be shared over and over. People can learn so much from you and your wisdom. I know that we will give them ways in which to get in touch with both of us. And I want to thank you so much. And I want to let everyone know about next week's speaker, because I met her through Dina. Her name is Brenda Kramer, and her specialty is helping people who are stuck, feeling stressed with their student loans. It is the biggest debt in America today. And it is so scary how people are not saving because they're telling themselves, I can't because I have this huge debt. I have the student loan debt. Help me. How do I get out of it? So if you or someone you know or someone you love have this weighing on them, this federal student loan, right? What are some of the things that are available to you? What are some of the options? Come learn with us next Thursday, this time with Brenda Kramer, and she'll talk about some of the things that she's been doing to help people save so much money on a monthly basis. Some of the loans get forgiven, but imagine tying up some of the money that's going in this area, but then being able to pay yourself and your future. So that will be on next week on the Way to Wow. And I want to wish you all a phenomenal rest of your Thursday and a great week. Thank you.